we as designers and as creatives, we always need to be reappraising the tools that we use. Just forcing the problems that we're presented with, our design briefs or our challenges through the same old process all the time is a recipe for disaster. I have a tendency to want to sprint towards the future. So new things attract me and change attracts me. So, and when we were finding ourselves in the middle of the pandemic and we were all working from home, my attention turned to the glimpses of Gravity Sketch that I'd seen through Michael Smith, one of your other presenters. And we really lent into that very, very fast. What was fascinating for that journey was embracing new tool, working with Duano, who's very patient, bringing us on board and getting us to a point where we had enough skills to be seriously dangerous. And then we ran with it. There was a lot of interaction with you guys at Gravity Sketch as well as we pushed the tool, I think, to its limits and then found new limits and then pushed it a little bit harder. But we used it for concept creation, just for hanging out, actually, just sometimes just doing sketch reviews, just being with each other, but also the generation of models and themes, and now in live programs that are worth $1 billion to the company. So it's been quite a journey.
Everybody is on a different level when it comes to adapting or learning Gravity Sketch. Paul Wright's team is they're the power users within Ford, so they're always kicking out some cool stuff that I get so excited to see. But there's teams that are just starting to take baby steps, so it's really fun to work with different teams and kind of change my level of communicating with them, and then even exposing them to different things, and them just brain just goes. Even in VR, you can hear them expressions like, whoa.
Similar to Paul, I definitely am into technology and how it can help us do our jobs better. And I think as you go through the journey of different technologies, and you're just talking about marker renderings and Photoshop and all those things, when you add a tool, it's something that enhances a designer's ability. And I think with some 3D tools in the past, it might have limited a designer's creativity because you had to plug in numbers and do different things, and it was more engineering based. And something like Gravity Sketch has been a really creative tool that designers can be expressive in. So you spend that 40 or 50 hours and you feel really comfortable in the program, and then you're able to create anything you want, right? You're not limited by that tool. And we're starting to see design being influenced by the tool itself, right? Because I'm able to create these really expressive shapes and things that I wouldn't have drawn before, but because I have this new tool, I'm able to do that.
To add, one of the things that I feel is really very useful in my field is that we can now sort of design a car from the inside out. You couldn't do that with a lump of clay because it's a big solid object. And now we can sit ourselves behind the wheel and design this thing around ourselves. And actually, even for some of our younger designers, that's quite a challenge, to design the vehicle in its entirety at the speed of which we're now moving is extraordinary. There's a little bit of shaping of the brain to sort of get our head around this, but it's a fascinating process.
Using Gravity Sketch is bringing us to solutions that we wouldn't have drawn before. And we're seeing that, not just with Gravity Sketch, but with some of these generative design tools where we're able to take athlete data, plot that into creating product. So there's all these different tools that are helping us design in a different way and getting us to different solutions.
I think the traditional way of just sketching a side view of a shoe, it can be nice visually, but whenever you're thinking of actually impacting someone's life by maybe being more of an injury preventive aspect, or maybe having it more functional for performance-based purposes, you have to think of it in a greater perspective, which Gravity Sketch really helps me to evolve in that design mindset with.
Designers were selling concepts, and once we have a concept realized, we need everybody to understand it, and not everybody has a creative mind like we do, right? So if I can show something in 3D and there's no interpretation needed, you're that much further along in the process, right? I don't need to go sample 3 different variations of a toe because I'm not sure what it's going to look like from a 2D sketch. If I can show you 3 different variations in 3D, we make a decision and we go. The other side for us that's been important is on the factory side. You know, up until a couple of years ago, we were giving 2D tech packs, right? Lateral, medial, toe, all these different views. Questionable if they all matched up, right? Did the line that was coming from the lateral view match the toe that came around? When we give them a 3D tech pack, everything lines up. The designer has thought through all those details, how things come together, and the factory has a representation of, hey, this is what we expect to come back, and if it doesn't look like that, then there's an issue. So just that ability, right? It's just taking the interpretation out of what that product's going to look like. It goes such a long way. I think that's a huge part of the whole 3D process.
You find more efficient tools to be creative. You can do a lot more with that time. You know, there's always room for another sketch. So if your sketch takes a week to do, then you're going to do one sketch a week. But if you can produce hundreds in the same amount of time, isn't that better? I would say so.
Also the quality, right? Like we talked about what these tools allow us to do in a quick period of time. So a sketch that was a napkin sketch and you did 100 of those, you can now do a 3D model and you can almost do hundreds of those. So the quality of the concept is so much further along than it maybe was a couple years ago. So yeah, I just think you can iterate better. And again, 3D allows somebody who's not as creative or visual to understand what you're trying to do.
Just recently, I presented to the global head of design of all Ford Motor Company progress on one of our live programs. And just as I was about to bring it all up, it was a collaborative space, not Gravity Sketch, but I realized that every single image in it was non-traditional. It was either a Gravity Sketch model or it was an AI image created with Viscom. There was not one single sketch. And I just for a moment, I found myself going, oh, hang on. How did we get here? But we got there because it was the right thing to do, because this is the right process for the problem in hand.